Yo, what's up? So I haven't actually talked that much about Nintendo in the past, mostly because I don't really play that many Nintendo games, and they don't really make too much news. However, there are a few things that I like and dislike about Nintendo. Obviously, I think their console, the Switch, is really, really good. Their games, for the most part, are also super, super top tier. I think like Smash, obviously, is great. Legend of Zelda is good. Like I don't know, Animal Crossing is good. Like a lot of their games are just really really good. But something that I don't like about Nintendo is the way that they treat their fans, the way that they treat like communities around their games. Like if you look at the Melee Smash community, they've completely like fucked over that community for a really long long time. And just general stuff like that, obviously. And some things that have been like recently an issue is the refund policy for digital purchases on their Nintendo store on the Switch, right? So we're going to go over an article talking about some lawsuit that happened in Germany that talks about this a little bit and goes over some changes that might be coming to EU at least. Hopefully later on in the future in the US, maybe a lawsuit in the US will follow this one. But yeah, we're going to go and talk about that so that we can get an idea of how Nintendo is trying to fuck over people because for some reason, they like to do that. I don't know. So Nintendo might have to make pre-order refunds easier after a losing lawsuit. When you can cancel pre-orders in Nintendo Switch might change soon following the German court decision. Last week, following a lengthy appeal process, the Federation of German Consumer Organization VZBV successfully argued that Nintendo's current eShop pre-order return policies are insufficiently flexible, and the console maker may now have to further loosen its heavily criticized digital pre order refund rules to be consumer friendly enough to pass legal muster in the EU. Now, something that's kind of annoying about Kotaku, because I love making fun of Kotaku, is they don't put the like they should have put at the beginning what the rules are that were being contested, right? Like, why would you start with this sentence? Like, it's so stupid. You're like, what the fuck? What are the rules that are being contested? And we'll get to that. But I'll just, you know what? I'll just go ahead and tell you right now. It's the fact that you couldn't refund a pre-order if it was like 7 days before the game came out, right? It had to be longer than 7 days, and obviously that's fucked up, right? Like if you're trying to play a game and or not you're trying to play a game, but you're trying to potentially play a game in the future, but let's say you pre-ordered it and then you're like, fuck, now I need like the $60 back or whatever, but it's like comes out in like 5 days. Well, guess what? You can't get that money back. You're just SOL right there, okay? Or let's say some crazy shit comes out, like let's say you pre-ordered Overwatch 2 and then Activision Blizzard does something completely unbelievable, like I don't know, sexually harasses all their women employees or something weird like that that would never happen in the real world. Let's say that happens and you're like, dang, I want to refund this game because I don't want to support a company that does it. Well, guess what? You can't do that either. So there's some issues like that I can obviously come up with at the top of my head. I'm sure many other people come up with a lot of different issues, but I think those are the two. The major ones is like one, you need the money back, or two, you no longer want to play the game because either the company is weird or because you don't think the game is going to be as good as you thought it was, whatever reason. So Nintendo's eShop pre-order cancellation policies have been under scrutiny in Europe for years. This latest skirmish saw a judge in Germany overturn the previous Nintendo court victory from last September. The VZBV consumer advocacy group argued the current policy, which only lets customers cancel pre-ordered games up to 7 days before launch, isn't fair, as folks can't play the game to test it ahead of release. The judge agreed. Yep, I also agree with that. That's kind of why we have some rules on like Steam where you can play for like 2 hours or something before you refund it. Now 2 hours isn't that long, but it's better than no hours before you refund it, right? Because 7 days before the game comes out, you haven't traded the game at all. In fact, you might have only seen like a couple trailers of it, maybe not even a gameplay trailer. That sucks. That's really bad. I think from a consumer perspective, like it's almost embarrassingly bad. I don't know why Nintendo is trying so hard to be like the evil bad guy in all the gaming industry when EA has already taken that spot. And Nintendo could just be like the friendly, like, kid friendly gaming company that does good by its um consumers and stuff like that, because like yeah, while the heavy monetization, heavy like scumminess can work for like one company, I don't know if every company can follow that model. Now, something I do like to talk about all the time is that you should never think of what a company does as like immoral or moral or whatever, like, or I'm sorry, you should never think of it as like moral, like bad or good. You should always think of it as immoral, like they're trying to gain money, right? That's like all the company cares about. And I would argue that this is probably a bad move for Nintendo because, I mean, if you think about what happens when you piss off a fan base, right? Is like they can boycott your stuff. Honestly, we've seen that with Blizzard pretty heavily with a lot of their stuff. We've seen that in the past with like EA stuff and their, or not even, not, it doesn't even have to be like people boycotting. It could be governments going after them, like I guess is in this case, but also EA with their loot boxes had some issues with the EU legal system as well, which obviously, I mean, it's gonna. I don't remember how much it cost them, but at some point, it's gonna cost them more to deal with the legal system than it would be just to not put those crazy monetization things in their games. So they're kind of treading a fine line here, and also there's something to be said about gaining the trust of your consumers, right? So that's why some companies will try to do this heavy monetization, like EA and apparently like Nintendo, and other companies like Steam or I don't know Sony or whatever will try to. Maybe Sony's a bad example now that some of the other stuff has come out, but whatever. Some other companies will try to get in the good graces. Like I guess Xbox is a better example because they'll try to be like, okay, you can do our Game Pass, it's really cheap. You can play a lot of great games. You can play any game you buy for Xbox on your PC and stuff like that, right? So there are companies that try to do the opposite and appeal to like a lot of people's like emotional or like how they feel about a company and get like users and consumers that way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get consumers as a company, and by doing this, I think you're alienating a lot of people. I think it's like, because like why would people pre-order on your system, right? If they feel like they're going to be cucked later on, right? They're going to stop pre-ordering. They might work once or twice with something like this for like every single user, but eventually users will stop pre-ordering if they want to pull out, right? In a summary of the case posted on December 3rd and translated by Nintendo Life, the VZBV explained that while Nintendo allows players to download full games after pre ordering them, these preloaded games aren't technically accessible until the release date, which doesn't meet the legal requirement needed to exempt from the EU's 14-day return policy. That law states that consumers have 14 days to return or request a refund on all products purchased online or over the phone, with a few exceptions. One of those exceptions is on digital items such as movies or games. In that case, once the content has been downloaded, you can't request a refund or return. Okay, so something that, I mean, let's think about this from like a technological perspective, right? Because that makes a lot of sense. If you've downloaded something, it's very hard to prove whether or not you've copied those files somewhere else or not. And because of a lot of pirating and stuff like that, that's why a lot of companies have moved to these online services that allow you to purchase games on them, like Steam, like Epic Game Store, like Origin, stuff like that. The reason that companies have moved there is because it's a lot easier to verify if you launch a game from there that it's legit than it is from like your actual computer. So it basically makes it so that they can guarantee that you have purchased this game and you're using it legally. Otherwise, it's really easy for you to just purchase something digital, download it like as a separate thing, refund it, and then like during that refund process, maybe it's required to uninstall it. But if you've already downloaded it somewhere else, then it's not really like it. Sometimes they don't know that you just did that. So it makes sense for digital content in this way, at least from the EU's perspective. But also, yeah, once it's downloaded on the, like if it's pre-downloaded or early download, sometimes like a lot of games will do this. Like when you buy a game, you can download it the day before it releases or whatever, so that you don't have to wait once the servers go live. It's very very common for games to do this. So, but you can't actually play the game in that time, right? Like it's not like you actually have the content, especially if you're on a Nintendo console. It'd be really, really. I mean, it's possible, but it'd be really hard to have downloaded content, um, like stored somewhere, and then once you refund it, like keep it somehow. Like that'd be really hard to do on a Nintendo console because every fucking layer of that console is managed by Nintendo. Like the hardware, the entire process of purchasing the game itself, the downloading of the game, all of that's handled by Nintendo, right? Like you don't do that through any third party thing where it's like you download a game on Steam, like some company made that game, some company produced that game, and then Steam just hosted that game on their service. So it's a little bit different. But yeah. However, the VZBV didn't agree that Nintendo's preloaded games qualified for the exception, as according to the group, until the release date, the game is worthless or the buyers, and the contract of Nintendo is not fulfilled in any way. Now, a judge has ruled in the consumer group's favor, and according to the case summary posted by the VZBV, it appears Nintendo has accepted the ruling. Okay, so yeah, it makes sense. You can't play the game. Even if it's downloaded, that doesn't mean you can play the game. It's still worthless. Like, you can't fucking do anything. Why? How would that even be considered a fair, like how would that be considered something that's been fulfilled by the company, right? Yeah, it makes sense. This latest tussle began in January 2020 following the years of pressure from Germany and Norwegian country consumer groups. They took Nintendo to court in a Germany and alleged that the lack of any sort of pre-order refund policy was illegal. Nintendo eventually won that case, but the VZBV appealed, which has now led the group's new victory. Okay, that's some boring shit, but I guess like Nintendo won this case in 2020, and they're like, yo, that's fucking cap. Okay, this shit is bullshit. Hear us out. Let's get a new judge, and then the new judge is like, oh, true, yeah, this shit's fucked. All right. It actually used to be completely impossible to cancel digital pre-orders on eShop, which is super cringe. The ability to refund a pre-ordered only came about last September when Nintendo introduced its current 7-day pre-order cancellation policy. Multiple consumer groups in the EU remained unsatisfied and continued to apply legal pressure against the company. Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Fuck these companies, bro. That's what I'm saying. I don't give a fuck about the companies, right? Like, I don't feel like people should care about companies in the way that a lot of people do. Like, don't feel bad for the company. Don't feel bad for like the people making millions of dollars at the top. Like, yo, it's fine. They're gonna try to make money, and then the consumer is gonna try to pay less money. That's how this interaction works, at least in like a capitalist system. So until like you create some revolution to make it like communist or socialist or whatever, this is how it's gonna work. Us, the consumer, are gonna have to fight against the people like selling it and the people making it and the like all whatever you would call producers, like resellers, like all that stuff. So like you're gonna have to fight against those people. And what if you want to fight against that legally? Then by all means, fuck yeah, do it. If you want to make it illegal for them to do some of this bullshit because the free market or whatever is not doing it correctly because Nintendo doesn't give a fuck what Sony and Xbox are doing, then fuck yeah, do it. Do it legally. Do whatever's in your power because I feel like you should be very self interest motivated in a lot of ways, and a lot of people aren't, right? Like, I don't know why so many people are okay with the way that companies do things, right? Like, they're okay with like Walmart coming into communities and like purchasing a lot of like purchasing like a Walmart and then like out competing smaller businesses to kick those out. Maybe this is a bad example, but like Walmart will do this. They'll come into small communities, outproduce or the other smaller businesses by like dropping prices, and then once all the smaller businesses are out, then they'll increase their prices again, right? Now, of course, at the beginning, that's great for the consumer because you're like, fuck yeah, I go and I can get my fucking shit for really, really cheap. But at the end of the day, one, you just fucked over a bunch of small businesses in your community, and two, you're going to be paying more because they just up the prices once all the competing companies are out. Now, it's a little bit different now with Amazon because you can order a lot of stuff online, so at least it's like kind of um, there's a ceiling there a little bit. But you know, if you can fight that legally and you can say, hey, stop fucking with our shit, Walmart. Like, you can come in here, but just don't like, you can't like drop prices like that or whatever. You know, like this is an example. So like, you know, like I feel like people should probably be okay doing this a little bit more, like fighting for what their own self interest. And I'm not even doing this on like some kind of moral standing. Just like, why would you let amorphous like systems, like companies that operate outside the idea of morality, dictate a lot of your life? Like, it makes no sense to me. As of today, no region's eShop will allow players to cancel pre-orders on games that are fewer than 7 days away from release. However, this new wrinkle in the ongoing legal saga, it's possible for the company will be forced to offer more flexible and fair refund and return policy to its EU customers in the near future, and perhaps such change will trickle down to other regions too. We can hope, because it's kind of fucked how they do the system now. But you know what? That's my opinion on the topic. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Just want to say hi to help me on the algorithm. Please do. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. There's other stuff I'm going to be covering pretty soon. Like, I want to cover more Earth 2 stuff since a lot of stuff's gone down there. I want to cover some other NFT game stuff because I feel like there's some scammy stuff going on in there, and maybe some interesting stuff as well that we can go over. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.